Well, hi. Happy Monday.
Yet another Monday night team Zoom call. We're so excited as always to be here because we're even extra excited tonight because we have a very special guest that we don't get to see very often, but when we do, we yearn for more. Paul,
Did you hear that?
Did you hear
He
me, Paul? I
yearns for
actually
you.
said that.
He's yearning for you. I'm scared of what he just said. Now, before we get into our special guest, those of you that have been watching the Facebook page know that we have a really, really exciting, interesting, I'm fired up about the call. But before we do that, how many of you saw the information today that we have a new flavor for Cleanse for Life? That is major. I'm so excited about this.
I need a new flavor of that. I was ready for a new flavor of Cleanse, you guys.
I'm excited about it. Maybe Dr. Paul's tasted it. Maybe he's going to talk about it. But I'm gonna go. That's all. That's the only thing I actually.
Did you guys see? How many of you raised your hands? How many of you saw that you got that new flavor today? Give me a little raise. About half of you. Okay, good.
But by the way, you guys, if you're on this and your teams aren't on it, I know they're not because I'm looking at the numbers. I don't care if it's summer. Message them.
We know they're
get them on. They're not going to want to
drinking pina coladas instead of getting on the call. I get it.
Please message your people because
you know what though, you don't want me to sick Paul on you. He's from Canada. This guy he gets a little crazy sometimes, and if I give him your home phone number, it's not going to be good.
I don't know what that's all about. Darn it! I had something on here. Hold on. He's a little crazy. He's a little crazy tonight. I had a website on here that I wanted to pull up, and now I can't. But okay, I'm just going to start. If you text your people, you guys, you text them to get them on here, because at the very end, I know that there will probably, depending on Dr. Paul's time, the ability for him to go into maybe a little bit of Q&A. I reached out to Dr. Paul and asked him if we could get him, ask him to be a guest speaker on one of our calls. In all the years that I've been here with Isagenix, which is 6.5 years, I've been to every event that Isagenix has done. I've listened to almost every podcast. I'm a tiny bit of a product geek, and so I read and listen to a lot of things. And my number one favorite trainer in all of Isagenix that I have ever heard over all these years, and even way back when Isagenix started, because we did go to that launching event, and we heard some great speakers then, is still Dr. Paul Anderson. He's my number one favorite trainer. He's an extremely good communicator. He's hysterically funny. And he explains things in a way that not only teach you, but they create a desire in you to get the word out more. And so it's an unbelievable combination. He is a great, great man. He's not only a doctor, he's from Canada, but he also has multiple disciplines that he's also certified in outside of just being a doctor. He's a product formulator. And here's one of my favorite things about him. He is a researcher. So the information that he has is because, first of all, think about what it takes to become a doctor and to have multiple certifications in multiple disciplines. He's a product formulator. So now you're talking about a lot of different things, but his researching ability means he has a depth of knowledge beyond the average doctor. And if you don't already know this, he is the formulator of our Isa Delights.
Yes.
So hello, we're obsessed with him.
I'll say thank you just for that.
Yes.
I don't care about any of the other stuff, just the chocolate. Thank you, Dr. Paul.
He's a little one-sided. I care about all of it. And he also is he is extremely knowledgeable and has a number of clinics and things that he's taught over the years in pain management. So he is the formulator also of our joint support, and the cream that we basically use as body lotion, all of our entire bodies, with minus a few private areas for achy joints. And so we had a testimony today, Dr. Paul, of one of our team members who's actually on the call, raise your hand, Majay, who came over today and she was achy and hurting. Bobby gave her the pain and joint support, the joint formula. Within an hour, she was like she's been jumping around the house ever since. And I said, by the way, Dr. Paul is the one that formulated that supplement that you took today. So he's
like magic.
He is magic.
Can I say that, Dr. Paul? Are you a magician?
He is a magician. I'm going to say one last thing.
I think of myself as a wizard.
See? He is.
I knew it.
So here's the thing. I reached out to him and I said, Dr. Paul, we have a new group. There's a lot of people coming on at once and they've never heard you. I would love to have you come on the call. And I said, matter of fact, this is a group, this is an African American group, a Black American group. And he goes, I have a talk specifically for them. And I was foaming at the mouth. I started to sweat. I got very excited. And so he did a tiny preview for a small group for Lavelle and a couple of his leaders the other day. And so tonight you are going to be treated to some information that you have never heard before at Isagenix. You are going to be treated to information that I'm going to go ahead and say is not talked about enough. And I am very excited that this team is going to be leading the charge, not just in Isagenix, in growing the ethnicities of the demographic of Isagenix, but in really impacting the health of a multitude of ethnicities. And Dr. Paul is leading the charge. And so I'm going to just make him the host. And I hope we're recording. Oh, good, we are. And take it away.
There he is.
You're amazing.
Thank you very much, you two. You're absolutely wonderful. And those of you that are on the call, Michelle and Bobby are wonderful leaders. Well, Michelle's more, but Bobby's a good guy too. And, you know, when Michelle wanted me to do this talk, so without asking her, and that's a major risk if you know Michelle, I broke this up into 3 segments. One of the reasons is if we're going to talk about different ethnic groups, it's going to take me a lot longer. You don't have to know this. This is simply for you to learn for yourself. It's not knowledge you have to have. And if you want someone who wants more detail, you can refer them to these pieces. I think we'll probably end up doing a series of 3. And then the leaders on the call, I'm happy to help serve you. So if you say, hey, we just want a 20-minute talk on cleanse or 15 minutes on this or that, then we can do little small segments that are more appropriate for sharing, where the deeper knowledge is for a different group. And especially when you start dealing with the different types of physiology of races, it just takes me a little more time, because now I've got to deal with not only all the problems of society for Caucasian and the white community, but also the Black community, the Latinos, and we're going to talk a bit about the Polynesians and Samoans. So that's going to take us a little bit of time. So mostly we're going to focus on cleansing today. But happy to answer any questions if I got time. So we're going to get this up and running. There we go. All right. And I should be able to share. And let's do desktop 1. And let's do this. And am I good, Michelle? Give me a thumbs up. Are we good?
Yeah.
All right. So we're going to start off with, how does Isagenix make you leaner, healthier, and feel younger with more energy? And I was told never to start my talk with a disclaimer. So I like to start my talk with a disclaimer. I love this. But the reason I like this disclaimer is to understand is, although Isagenix is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease, it is so powerful that you actually have to have them talk to their doctor. And the reason you do, because this program will change their needs. And we've had people actually run into problems because things weren't adjusted fast enough. You can read through the language I'm giving you there. It's a very powerful program that turns on the body's own miracle. And a lot of the times the transformations are so large that you can change things that you're doing with your doctor. So a lot of people are reticent because the doctors often say no. So instead of asking if you can, ask if they'll make sure it's safe for you. And that's better languaging. And then we've got lots of studies which I'll show you now. There's lots of evidence this is good for you now. So it's a lot more powerful. And again, I'm going to give sort of general advice. It doesn't mean it's right for you. In the words of Jim Coomer, you got to find out what's right for you. And we'll talk about different things. And you'll say, oh, that Anderson, he doesn't know anything. I'm doing it this way. Well, yeah, you may be. But I'm going to give you what most people and maybe a starting place for some. So just some before and afters. And what's interesting is there's hardly any people of color in Isagenix. Like, I don't have a lot of choices here, but the transformations are remarkable when you get them. So this is for the ladies, because a lot of ladies on the call. Yeah, Michelle's smiling. Aaron's hot. So most of the guys would be happy with the before. Aaron wasn't sure which was before and after, so he had to label them. So on the before, most guys would be happy. But on the after, I want, sauce with those ribs. Like that's a rack of ribs, man. That's awesome. Bobby's jealous, like, man, I wish I looked that good naked. Yeah, we know, Bobby. So look, and I put this up, even though the resolution isn't good on some of this, but this was sort of very typical. So we're going to talk a bit about the Black community. Look what's here. Pizza, Coke, corn dogs, and fries. Oh, there's the vegetables. Sorry, there's the salsa. And the remote, the exercise device. So you can see part of the problems, and we're going to talk further about this, but Black Americans, pretty much, if they've come from Africa, they are very carb sensitive. They're more carb sensitive than white people. They actually have much more muscle density. They're more efficient. They're genetically superior. We're going to talk about that. There's other ethnic groups that are as well. But this is the scary, look, here's the kid with the exercise device again, eating the potato chips. 1 out of 3 US kids and Canadian kids now are fat. Absolutely horrible. When I went to school, maybe even with Bobby, because he's almost as old as I am, out of 500, there'd be 1 child that was overweight. 1. Now it's 1 out of 3, and it doesn't matter. You go in Canada, US, go to the playgrounds, there's all these overweight kids. What's unbelievable is they blame the parents. Your kids are fat because it's mom. All right, well, there is some lack of knowledge, but the medical advice we're giving is not very helpful. So let's just start off with this. If diets were effective, then we wouldn't be getting fatter and fatter. I mean, 9 out of 10 Americans, 1 out of 3 children, and all the major diseases, the decrease in longevity, diabetes, heart attacks, cancer, all these are massively rising. If diets worked, this wouldn't be happening. And the problem with diets, and this was a study by Pennington, but it was also done by UCLA, they studied all the diets and all the different low-calorie diets, low-carb, Atkins, the hot dog diet, which I know Bobby's a big fan of that one before he joined Isagenix. And when we did all these diets, what they found was almost everyone lost weight initially. But 2 years later, all the weight came back. So you're thinking, well, I didn't, I lost 2 years, but I'm the same. You're not. It turned out that 1/3 of the weight loss was muscle and bone. So serial dieters get fatter and fatter and fatter. And that's a really powerful concept to understand. So Isagenix, and this is credit because they didn't know this. We had seen the results. We've seen tens of thousands of testimonials before and afters, but the science wasn't there early on. And they decided to test the leading medical doctor diet. Well, it's not really fair because, well, I won't tell you what I think of doctors. And then Isagenix 30-day fat burning system. And that's the starting, some are on longer or before they go to maintenance. But this is just in 1 month. The difference between this heart-healthy diet from the doctors versus the Isagenix fat burning system, which is not a diet. Look at the difference in fat loss. 6.8 pounds versus what, 3.5 pounds? Almost double the fat loss and almost double the weight loss, which is a different discussion. That's pretty powerful. That's the difference between a diet and a fat burning system. And this is actually the most powerful thing. This is the 15 month Skidmore study done with on the Isagenix fat burning system. I mean, look at this guy. Yeah, Bobby, in your dreams. That's all I got to say. But what was amazing was they did 3 months to get down to their target weight, and then 12 months they went on maintenance. But what was happening when they're on maintenance on Isagenix, they continue to lose body fat. Pretty strange, right? Because I'm not trying to lose anymore. And they gained 5% more lean muscle mass, which means in the 12 months of maintenance, what are they doing? They're burning fat and they're gaining muscle every day, and they're actually losing a little weight. The researcher, Dr. Policheros, he had never seen anything like this before. But but for the ethnic groups, the big fact was number 3, was Jim Cooper just gave me the other day, 50% less sugar consumed. Unbelievable. Everyone's trying to say, I want to eat low sugar products or zero sugar products. And I will tell you, you will fail. Almost everyone will fail on that because the reptilian brain will go looking for its feel-good neurotransmitters. There's not a chance. And any of you have tried like no carbs for a while, like after 2 weeks, you're looking at a chocolate cake going, I'm doing great. And all of a sudden half the chocolate cake's gone. And you said, what happened? And the little reptilian brain said, oh, you're nuts, eat the damn cake. So the reality is you need to be on a program that changes your cravings. And that's how Isagenix is designed. And my product, Isolates, one of them but the shakes and all the minerals and the vitamins are all designed to help with the cravings. And that's what reduces the sugar. And it's interesting, any of you have been on Isagenix for a while, almost all of you report less cravings. I'm just not interested in much in sugar, your taste buds change. So it's a gradual change, but remember that. That's an incredibly powerful statistic beside everything else. And this is a great quote from Hungry for Change. It's not the fat that makes you fat, it's sugar. So there's two factors we're going to talk about. So we know that diet and exercise are not solving the problem. You can diet, but if you still have a high sugar diet, you're still going to continue to gain weight, even if your calories are low. It's the amount of sugar that you have per meal. And this is when we're going to start talking about different ethnic groups. When we start talking about different ethnic groups, so there's the black community is genetically superior because basically we're taken out of Africa. And remember, it's all tribal. There's not like an African gene pool of one tribe. There's 100+ tribes. And they all have different diets and they have different metabolisms, but overall, they have much slower metabolisms. They're designed to be highly efficient and they're muscularly dense. And then they are forced into slavery. They come across America. They're genetically selected so that they're designed to survive on very low sugar. And if you feed them sugar, they get very, very sick. More sick than the white community, which is, we'll acknowledge, is really sick. But the black community does worse, and so do the Hawaiians, the real Polynesians, and as well as Samoans. Because all those populations they're designed to have very efficient muscle, and it's about 50% plus more dense than ours, than typical white. It's not always true, but overall. And that, you'd think they would be burning more calories, they actually burn less. And that's why they really struggle. And if you look at the Southern diet, if you've ever eaten at a Southern restaurant, a black Southern restaurant, it's basically a sea of carbs with a little protein. I've never seen so much carbs. They're really going to struggle with this. The white community does as well. The Latino community as well. They're sort of in between. They do not do well also with high sugar. And when they come from Mexico to here, or whether it's Guatemala or whatever, wherever they're coming from, those Latin-based countries, they all get really sick and fat. And interesting enough, the medicine is not designed for them. The medicine is designed for the white community. That's a whole other discussion. And I just wanted to show you the Hawaiian community to show you how they're supposed to look. So, you know, this is The Rock. He had one dessert in 20 years. He has no sugar. That's a Samoan on low sugar. That's on the other side, that's a kid eating a typical diet. That's what's underneath that kid's weight, is that body. And The Rock is not different than most. Samoans actually, of any race in the population, have the thickest muscles, but they're designed to paddle 3,000 miles with no food. They're fishing along the way, they take a little coconut, a little pineapple, off we go. To do that, you have to be very energy efficient. All right. So let's get into, so we talked about high sugar is why one of the reasons diets fail. The other is diet sodas make you fat. And they did a study for 7 years in Texas, which is, they're pretty mean. And they were measuring how much diet soda you consume versus your waistline. And the ones that consumed the most diet soda were 30 pounds heavier than those that didn't. So it turns out, well, hang on. How many calories are in diet soda? 0. So how can 0 calories make you fat? Because you were told, what? It's all about calories and it's about exercise. So interesting. So this was Newsweek. And they said how fat cells are waging war on your health. That's kind of interesting, isn't it? So there's something malicious about fat. We're going to get to that. Why dieting is no magic bullet. Huh. We'll come back to that. This is a special. Toxic America, 2 nights. On CNN. And this is where we're going to get to eventually, is the surprising link between inflammation, heart attacks, cancer, Alzheimer's, and all other diseases. So maybe there's another factor about weight that we need to know about. And it turns out that there's a major factor, is that if we get inflamed, whether that's from high sugars or toxins, if we get inflamed, that's what the immune complexes look like for the nerds. But for the non-scientific group, your body's inflamed is basically like I put gasoline on you and I lit the match. And your whole body's on fire. And it makes humans very, very sick. Here's an example. Body's inflamed. Cortisol, our aging hormone that puts on deep visceral fat, makes you fat, burns off muscle, demineralizes bone. That's what happens. And then you have heart attacks and so on. And your growth hormone drops. So when your body's inflamed, cortisol is high, growth hormone goes down. Growth hormone is our anti-aging hormone. It puts on muscle weight, it burns fat, it thickens bones. You don't want to be in this state, but this is what most of America's in. The way you want to be is cool. See, Aaron's cool, right? His body's cool. That's what you look like. And then what he's different here is he's got high growth hormone, low cortisol, and he looks good because the ladies like him, right? And on top of that, he's burning fat and putting on muscle constantly. This is healthy aging. So let's talk a bit about toxins, because this is where Isagenix actually came from. They were leaders in nutritional cleansing. A study from Mount Sinai School of Medicine in 2005 found that the average person is walking around with 167 deadly toxins. 167. Fungicides, insecticides, pesticides, aluminum, mercury, right? The rest of the heavy metals, jet fuel, trans fat, and so on, and trans interosteride fats. That's pretty scary. But even scarier is what it does to you when it comes in. So when these toxins hit your body, and they're everywhere, they're in the air, they're in the water, they're in the food you eat if you're not eating organic. And they come in, the liver sees them, which is supposed to get rid of them. The liver says, I have no idea what to do with this. We were never designed for this level of toxicity. Fats get sucked in, they go in the bloodstream, they circulate around, they piss everybody off. And the fat, remember when the fat was mean at the beginning? This is where the mean fat comes in, remember? So the fat says, I'll take the toxins, but here's the deal. First of all, if I take any toxins, I get to make more fat. And what they do is you actually make more fat to hide the toxin. That's why diet sodas make you fat, because they've got artificial sweeteners. So when the sweetener hits you, you think that it's actually good for you. It's actually terrible for you, because that toxin actually comes in and actually gets enrobed in other fat. The fat says, I'm not done. Then I want to signal all my brethren using a hormone called obesogens, and I'm going to actually have all the fat cells start making more fat. And finally, I want to release some inflammatory chemicals and really inflame everyone else further. That's if you had one toxin, let alone 167 rolling in daily. And I have to switch to be compliant because, well, I've been in a lot of trouble with compliance and just following along all the changes, but this is compliant. Let's talk about intermittent fat burning fasting. You've heard a lot about this right now. It's become popular. Back in the day when Isagenix started, intermittent fasting was not a thing, but now the science has caught up. There's a wonderful 2011 study that showed if you did a 24-hour fast in men, their growth hormone goes up 2,000%. And if you do a second day, it goes up a little higher. Women are not as successful. That only goes up about 1,300% in women, which is why a lot of gals go on this program and they follow it perfectly. And the guy is cheating and they get really mad because the guy loses more weight. Well, because he has more growth hormone spikes when he's fasting. That's just physiological. So why is it only 2 days? Well, because you're supposed to be hunting and strong for 2 days, and after 2 days you haven't caught any food, the creator says, I'm going to reverse this, I'm going to lower growth hormone, raise cortisol, put you in starvation, and basically start sucking off muscle mass. So any type of fasting program should not be more than 2 days. And that's what's recommended for Isagenix. This was just showing results in women. Now, intermittent fasting is great, but we have one major problem. So after 4 hours of fasting, right, the liver automatically starts to detox the blood, the fat starts to burn. About 6 to 8 hours, you burn off most of your sugar, the fat's burning, but what's in the fat? 167 deadly toxins. They get released, they circulate around the body, they piss everyone off again, and they get sucked back into the body. So you do not get the maximum effect from your intermittent fast because you also need to cleanse the toxins. Because the liver is completely incapable. Our creator never expected us to poison the animals, the planets, the air. We were never designed. We don't have any enzymatic machinery to really handle this. So this is for the nerds on the call. This is called phase 1, phase 2 detoxification. Basically, most toxins love fat. So if we can make them love water, we can flush them out through the poop and the pee, which is what we want to do. It's called phase 1 to phase 2 detoxification. And so we need something that will help the liver. And that's what Cleanse for Life is. Now, some of the call, if you've been around for a while, you've heard all these amazing claims for Cleanse for Life. It does this, it does that. You know, it makes you taller, sexier. I get all that. But what I can say scientifically, what I'm allowed to say is it supports the liver to detox the body and remove toxins. That's what I'm allowed to say, because that's the main thing that it does. So that's why you need a cleanse drink. Now, what's nice in Cleanse for Life, we just started the studies. We've shown it mobilizes toxins. I know Dr. Acherio is working on a study showing that it removes toxins. I don't know where we are, but I'm sure Michelle will be on the call on the phone tomorrow to find out. So, all right. Basically, nutritionally cleansing puts us in, remember that 12-month, Skidmore study? Burn fat and builds muscle 24/7. That's what you want to do. Now, the one problem that when you go on cleanse is the number one reason people quit is they have a bad cleanse day. And having a bad cleanse day is not a good thing. So the question is, how do you have better cleanse days? Well, one of the things that's really you're struggling with is your reptilian brain, which is used to all this carb and toxic foods. What else? You got trans fats. Everything that's irritating to the brain actually makes it a little happier. So when you suddenly take all that junk and sugar away, the reptilian brain gets very grumpy. And a lot of people quit. They can't get through the first day. So when we came out with Isodolite, Kathy Coover brought it to the company because it contains brain-friendly vitamins, minerals, green tea, and is designed to tickle your brain and make it happy. It's designed to satisfy your hunger and curb your cravings so you can get through the day. So just some statistics, so for those of you on the call that are business builders, is that 50% higher retention if they get 1 box of Isodolite the first month. And it makes sense because they have an easier cleanse day. So you can have an easy and fun cleanse day, or you can be tormented. Great story about this. I was in Atlanta. I was doing a talk there, and there was a woman psychologist I'm talking to, and she says, I don't understand my friend. She didn't get the Isodolite, and we're cleansing today, and I'm having a great time. She had a turkey burger at 11 tonight. Uh-huh. So she didn't have the chocolate. No, she should have got it. Huh. Maybe you should have shared. The point was she didn't set her up for success. So it's interesting, when I survey the audiences, 90% use it for cleansing, but only 1/3 to 1/2 share. So you're setting up half the people you sign up or more for failure. Doesn't make sense to me. This needs to be in the first order. Whether they continue or not, it's a whole other discussion, but they need to get to that first cleanse or you will lose them and they will never come. So if they were going to have life and transformation on health and perhaps even wealth, they're not going to be there if they fail on that first cleanse. You have to support them and you have to get them through it. And part of that is the Isodolite to have a good experience. And again, those cravings aren't just on the cleanse day, they also occur on shake day. So again, the Isodolite was designed to sort of take you through those periods where you start to carb crave as your body gets used to the change in your diet. And we never thought of this. This was Jim and Eric Coover that Mark was at a dinner with them, and they brought out dessert, which was Isodolite, which we never thought of. And they were having it for dessert substitute. And all these things are designed to lower sugar at the same time satisfy the brain. That's the theory. Oh, this is for Michelle. That's a happy brain on Isodolite. So, from Lynn Hagedorn, friends don't let friends cleanse without Isodolite. If you like someone, make sure they get a box. Now, we have to talk about when people finish. So if you're going to cleanse and you're managing the toxicity, you're taking the cleanse drink, one of the things is you need to move on to low-calorie superfood. You've got to keep that sugar low, whether it's a white community or whether it's communities that struggle more, which is the Black, the Latino, the Hawaiians, and so on. You've got to make sure that you keep the calories got to be low, and it has to be very nutritionally dense. And this is what Redmond showed. This is a 54% increase in growth hormone with proper nutrition. It wasn't done with the shake, but just to give you an idea. So when you finish your fasting and you've reset your metabolism, another thing we've been talking about ever, Michelle, is that actually when you fast, you reset your metabolism. it actually slows down a little, and when you suddenly start feeding it, it speeds up again. So that's one of the other reasons, if you cleanse regularly, you're always resetting your metabolism. So one of the things is when you finish, instead of what I saw in Atlanta, which was I was driving, I saw an IHOP all-you-can-eat pancakes for $5.99, that perhaps better choice would be to have a IsaLean or an IsaLean Pro shake. I recommend the Pro unless you're older, because I like the fact that it's more, it's got a higher protein carb ratio. Again, I'm more about keeping the carbs lower. You do need some carbs. Your brain, a happy brain generally burns 6 to 25 grams an hour. And the government actually mandates if you're going to do a meal replacement, this is a meal replacement, must have some carb, and that's the minimum amount of carbs it must have. So having this whey protein shake also has been shown to support healthy growth hormone levels. Again, that's part of the reason why we had that 15-month study where it showed people did very well on that. And when Paul Cherry was looking at that, so the thing that was amazing was people didn't drop out. They liked the flavor and they felt satisfied, and he never seen that kind of compliance in the study before. So the message is, you want to do intermittent fasting, you want to cleanse, and then you want to come with nutritionally dense superfood that's low calorie. And then over time, you'll reduce your sugar consumption. Now, not everyone's going to tolerate that cow dairy. Not everyone does well. So there is vegan-friendly choices that we have, and they're very well done. They're actually done with what's called complete protein. It's very hard to do. That's why it took John Anderson 3 years to design this. But it actually works. It's very well designed. Just understand, if you do have a choice, you will not get the same fat-burning, muscle-gaining effect from this protein compared to the whey protein complex, because humans actually have a pathway that's built into us where those kind of, the dairy is more effective in turning on our metabolic machinery. So that's why Isagenix makes you leaner, healthier, and feel younger with more energy. So, Michelle, I thought I could turn it over for questions at this time.
Hey,
Awesome.
Paul.
Bobby wants to show you something.
Yeah, you
Dr.
keep
Paul.
saying that, I wish and all this stuff. Take your screen share off. Let me show you something real quick.
No, I know you're a hot guy. I just was messing with you.
Well, sometimes you just gotta have that testosterone going and show. I'll show you something real quick. This is.
All right, I'm not sharing anymore, Bobby. You're up, baby.
That was a couple days ago, so I'm not feeling that bad when you put all those pictures up there.
Oh, the women are betting
I'm
themselves.
probably-
Remain calm.
I'm probably 15 years older than that guy, so.
And white. Okay, you guys, feel free. I'm sure some of you have some specific questions. And like Dr. Paul said, he's going to break it up because there's so much information that he doesn't want to overload you. So if you have specific questions that you would like to Dr. Paul to address, unmute yourself or type it in the chat if you're not able to. And he is happy to. Go ahead, Mel, just unmute.
Okay, so I have a question as far as athletics or, athletes when they're cleansing. I know, but if they're used to working out, you still recommend they can go ahead and work out, right? And lift weights, maybe, things like that.
Well, that's a great question. And so it's going to take me a few minutes to go through all the different.
Okay, and then I have a second part to that for your endurance athletes, your cyclists.
Melanie, I'm telling you.
Okay, weight-bearing exercises and endurance athletes that are
Okay, so
cyclists.
first we're going to start off with even getting athletes to cleanse. Right? That's okay. So the guy or the doctor that did this is Michael Colgan.
Yeah.
And in the 80s, he was the only Western doctor that we had for nutrition. I used him back in the 80s. And Michael back then was having his athletes cleanse 1 day a week. And he's done a study on triathletes. These are top pros. He actually cleansed them. He gave them one extra shake a day, and they actually, on average, lost 3% fat. They were already under 10, and they gained 3% muscle mass. So he showed that it actually works. But even then, they may still be hesitant. They're worried about losing muscle mass. But the reality is that they start doing it once a week. Now, most serious athletes are training 6 days a week. There's no way they're going to cleanse 2 days. Most of them. They won't do it. So that's the first thing. So yes, they should cleanse, and having that discussion. And then I just turn him over to Michael on his Facebook page and let him talk to him and share his data. And then endurance versus weight bearing, it doesn't matter. You still need to cleanse. It doesn't matter where. Actually, athletes have higher level of toxins because their respiration rate's higher. They're often exercising in places where there's a lot of pollutants. So athletes have higher toxicity. They need to cleanse more frequently than actually we do, that are only training 5 days a week or less, or Bobby training 1 day a month. You know, whatever.
Is that study available? I know Michael Colgan's amazing. I've been able to speak with him.
You know, I would just connect with him. I know I've got his data and I've actually presented it, but I would definitely talk to him about that, because they were all top pros.
Yeah.
So they were training 6 hours a day. You don't get, it was the elite of the triathlete world. So I would say that yes, the system works great for them. And it doesn't matter if you're endurance or whether you're weight bearing. And the other thing is, when you finish exercise, whether you're training with no nutrition or a little nutrition, shake needs to go in. You have 1 hour where the muscles are open that will suck in amino acids and actually spike your growth hormone. And that's just well known. And it doesn't matter. You'll get more effect from weight training, but even the endurance athletes, if you start to see them get very cachexic, they actually start to lose a lot of lean muscle mass. So they actually could use a little more protein. And when the time to take it, as soon as they finish training, it doesn't matter if it's, the isolate or it's the IsoPro or Isolean Pro. Either one needs to go in.
So you still recommend the full meal replacement one versus the IsoPro? I know we're coming out with something phenomenal.
Well, it doesn't really matter. And like, some people don't want to take a meal replacement after they train, and others do. So as long as you're getting the protein, and it also depends how hard you're training, this disciplines, because some of them actually need some sugar, and that's a whole different discussion. So
keep it simple.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. It was a great question.
Dr. Paul, I don't know if you can see the chat, but somebody asked specifically about coffee and creamer on a cleanse day. If you're having
creamer, oh no, we can't talk. Creamer's a toxin, so no creamer. If you're going to do coffee with cream on a non-cleanse day, use organic, and if you can get it, grass-fed cream, no problem, but no creamer.
No cream. So black coffee is okay.
There might be the odd one that's actually, so if you want organic coconut oil, there might be one, but generally they're very synthetic. And in terms of having coffee on a cleanse day, look, it depends where you are in your cycle. So originally, Isagenix said, okay, no coffee, no tea, no alcohol, no smoking. And of course, the Canadians are screwed because that's all they do. So you have massive withdrawal. So I'm taking someone that drinks 12 beers a day, smokes 2 packs of cigarettes and 5 cups of coffee, and then say, you're not going to do that tomorrow. That's nuclear. That's Chernobyl. Okay. I don't do that. What I say to them, look, do whatever you normally do that you think you have to get through the day. And I work with them over time. It's like a muscle. Let's have some success. And then it's like, next time, are you getting a little less cravings for something, whatever that is, and then manage it going forward. That's the way that I found to be much more successful. I had this discussion with Kyle in the crash. He was saying, all my people are having reactions. Yeah, well, because they're having withdrawal. So again, same with caffeine. If you take large amounts of caffeine, you generally can't quit in one day. You've got to gradually cut it down.
Sorry, I was typing. So Brandy, to answer that, basically he's saying black coffee only on a cleanse day. That's basically what he's saying.
That is the idea. And eventually no coffee, if you can do it. Some people still get headaches, so they can't do it. And by the way, coffee should be organic, and it should be 1 cup a day. Otherwise, it's just brown toxic sludge. There you go.
I have a question for you, Dr. Paul.
Well, thank you.
This is Mijay. How are you?
I'm fine, Mijay. How are you?
I am excellent.
Wonderful.
I must say, I totally suffer with a lot of pain in my body, joint pain. And I just experienced this entire time that I've been at Bob's and Michelle's home, a lot of joint pain. And every time that, I mean, to the point where I could not get up out of a sitting position without help. And my hip joints, my knees, I have a lot of pain in my hands because of the rheumatoid arthritis chronically throughout my skeleton. And I'm a type 2 diabetic. So I suffer with osteosporosis and degenerative joints. So when the weather changes, when it gets cold, I'm in a lot of pain. And they gave me the joint health
formula.
I don't know what you want to call it. Capsules, pills.
Joint formula, yes, the joint formula.
The joint formula. And so I took it. It wasn't an hour. It was within minutes. I was not thinking, and I jumped up off the couch, and I was like, I stopped myself in midway, and I said, Michelle, Bill, Mike, Bob, John, whoever, did you see what I just did? And they said, yeah, you just jumped up off the couch.
So that is absolutely wonderful. So I'm going to give you a couple of pointers here. So first of all, in the joint system, you need to take 3 of the tablets twice a day, either with shake or food. It's more effective. The second thing is use the cream 4 to 6 times a day. But the final thing is how to share your testimonial. We can't actually mention diseases. So what you can say is, I had this medical problem where all my joints ache. You can't use the word pain. All my joints ache and I feel terrible. And I can't, and whatever, I can't get off the couch, I can't go running, I can't walk 30 feet. And since I've been on the joint formula and the pain relief cream, I can now walk, my joints feel great. You can see how, and I'm just talking about function. Whatever else you're doing, I'm now back in the gym, whatever else happens to you. So you always want to use a testimonial where it's functional. I couldn't do this because I had this medical issue. Now I can do this easily. So there you go. It was a wonderful story. Thank you so much for sharing.
Awesome. Thank you. I thought she's been buzzing all afternoon, and I realized, oh, by the way, the man that gave you that is going to be on the call tonight. So she wanted to address.
We can do a whole other talk about how managing joint pain. That'll be another module down the road.
You're just going to be with us for a while, Dr. Paul.
Apparently, yes, I am.
I am so okay with. Okay, somebody had a question. They typed in the chat. She said, some of her people are saying they're not very fond of the isogenic snacks on a cleanse day. Do you have any tips or tricks or recommendations?
If you don't like them, don't eat them.
There you go.
Simple. Look, part of success on a program is you have to love what you're taking. So it's like people say they're shake. They're like, oh, you have to do it pure. And some people are saying, I'm so bored. I put a little fruit in. I do this a lot. Yeah, because you know what? Humans get bored. So you have to be engaged enough to like what you're doing to stay on it. So my view is if you don't really like them, you don't have to take them. Don't take them. You'll be fine without them. Use the Ice of Delight, use your cleanse, and drink lots of water. You'll be fine. There's no problem.
I tell people to interchange if they don't want the snacks to have Ice of Delights instead. Is that all right?
Yeah. Well, they normally we tell them that one every hour go from Ice of Delights to the snacks. But if they don't want the snacks, don't use the snacks. It's fine. And the odd person, believe it or not, doesn't like chocolate. Don't eat the chocolate.
There's 2 other questions here in the chat. One of them, she asks, do you have a favorite shake flavor? And then the second part of her question was, does anything, she's saying, any relief from anxiety? I know you have something that you talk about with the shakes and the fact that the L-tryptophan. Do you want to address that I don't know if you can quickly.
I can't because she's asking about and it's considered a medical condition, so I can't talk about anxiety.
I'll talk to you
later.
Talk
about happier brains, and that's actually the Ice of Delight helps you with a happier brain. The whole system cleansing helps you with a happier brain. And the other thing we didn't talk about tonight is Ionix, which is the adaptogenic herbal blend, also helps with a happier brain. I will also talk about next time about the vitamins, minerals. Vitamin D3 is a big part of this. We have to have a whole we're going to have a long vitamin D3 discussion, but in the US, the amount of D3 in the vitamin pack, which is amazing, is 2,000 IUs twice a day. And we'll talk about those kinds of things too. So I think I'll address it on the next call, but it's going to take a while and going to have to read between the lines.
Okay, that's perfect. And then here's the last thing, because I don't want to keep you for, we could literally keep you all night, but this will be our last question. Last question was, do you have to use the natural accelerator and the like ... will you get the same results if you are not using natural accelerator?
You may or may not. Again, it's completely body dependent. So look, if you're not liking something, your body just may not agree with you. So I'm not sure if you're going to get better or less results, but you won't stay on it. So at the end of the day, it's like exercise. I can say to you, Michelle, this is the best type of exercise. And you go, I hate that exercise. I'll never do that. You do it for a week and you quit. You say, but I really like playing golf. Okay. So then the right exercise for you is go golfing. Right? So part of this is finding things that you like that are getting you results. It doesn't matter if it's maximum as long as you like to do it. And it's so important that you really enjoy not only your nutrition, but you also enjoy your exercise and your activity. We're going to talk about that on the next call. Getting the right amount of sleep and all these things, and the right kind of foods to eat in your diet. Again, all to get into this low sugar, low toxic state where you're actually, burning fat, building muscle 24/7.
You guys, please, how excited are you for this information that Dr. Paul shared tonight? I'm going to unmute you all just briefly.
Love you.
Loving it? Loving it.
Looking forward to the next meeting.
I know, so are we. We're so excited. I want to tell you, thank you from the bottom of our hearts. Apparently, you got to stick with us for a while here because there's way too much amazing information. Yes, I recorded it for all of you that are asking, and yes, I will post it on the team page as soon as the recording has rendered and done all its little fun stuff. Dr. Paul, you are my favorite. You're my absolute favorite, period. Period in the end. I love to have you at events, on calls, just want to hang out with you. Amazing. Next Monday, Claudia, and I'll talk to you about the question that you asked, Claudia, off of the call.
And I just want to say too, thanks again. I also thank you, Paul, for everything you just talked about, your expertise, just your knowledge. It just reminds us why we need to be on these products every single day. And if you guys would do me a favor, when we get off this call, go order some joint support and some chocolates, because Paul
Dr. Paul
created both of those.
And
what's the word? Formulated. He formulated both of those. Go order some today, you guys. They're phenomenal if you haven't tried them yet. I know we have a lot of new people on the team. Go get some. You'll love it.
They really make a massive difference. My purse always has Isodelites in it. Like, no matter what country
I got a whole bowl of it here. Where is that thing?
I put it over there because we had guests. But I actually have a bowl of Isodelites on my desk. We love them.
Yes.
Thank you again, Dr. Paul. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Stick with us because we have a series, and this information is going to change the way you use the products. It's going to change the way your confidence level in talking to people about using the products. And we're going to open up a brand new demographic here at Isagenix for an entire group of people that need this information. So spread the word. Thank you again, everybody. I'll unmute.
Every Monday, right here, same time, same place.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks,